Hi, Jordan. Hi, what's going on?
I just ran away from home.
Okay.
I live in a family of 15.
Okay.
Thank you so much. There's a mother and father, and then there's 13 kids.
It is in our nature to be curious about how other people live. We want to understand why people become who they are. So when we see evil, we want to understand how evil was made, or if some of us are just born evil. The Turpin family is one such family that intrigued us. How could the parents have held their children as prisoners and tortured them and been able to control them the way they did? The Turpin family operated like a cult. They used fear, isolation, and dependence to control their children, even after they were adults. We are going to do a dive into the lives of the Turpin family, so come join me, Holly, in the Murder She Shed, the place we honor the dead right from my she shed. Let's get right into this story. David Turpin was born into a deeply religious family. His grandfather had been a reverend, and so David had always went to church his whole life. David was very intelligent, but kind of quiet and kept to himself. He was nerdy and always did well at school with good grades. He was the type of kid that would sometimes wear a bow tie to school, and he started wearing his hair in the Captain Kangaroo hairstyle in high school. He had a fascination with Star Trek, so it is said that his haircut was mimicked after Spock. He graduated high school with a top 20 student award and then attended Virginia Tech to study electrical engineering. He would meet Louise through the church they both attended. When he was 17 and Louise was 10, he started having an attraction to her. Louise was from a broken family, so she was eager to leave home, and she felt that David was that answer. Louise's maternal grandfather, John Thomas Taylor, was a highly decorated World War II veteran who served in Europe and Africa. John Taylor built houses and car lots all over the Princeton area. He opened the first Shell gas station in Mercer County, which was a big success, so he was very wealthy. But unfortunately, he was also a child molester that would allegedly molest any child he could get his hands on. He didn't mind if it involved incest either. Louise's mother had been molested since she was a young child by him. So when Louise's mom, Phyllis, became a mom, Phyllis would regularly drive her daughters over to her father's house to allow her father to have his way with her daughters in return for money. She basically sold her daughters to the devil. It was always the same. At some point during the visit, Papa would whisper to Louise that they were going into the other room for a tight hug. Their grandfather's alleged abuse was closely guarded family secret, and the girls were told never to tell about it. Louise was made fun of in school, and she didn't have many friends. She ended up quitting school and running off with David when she was just 16. After they got married, David and Louise moved to Fort Worth, Texas, where David got a job working as a computer engineer on the F-16 Fighting Falcon. It was a high-paid job, and the couple often ate out at pricey restaurants around town. In the fall of 1987, Louise Turpin became pregnant. She and David were delighted. Louise had always told her family that she wanted a dozen children, and now she was on her way. Their first child was named Jennifer. Then on February 3rd, 1992, Louise Turpin gave birth to a baby boy. He was named Joshua David. From then on, all their babies' names would begin with the letter J. Even though the Turpins made a lot of money, they also wasted a lot too. They bought things on credit by living outside their means, and Louise began to gamble and would end up blowing lots of money because once she started gambling, she couldn't stop. In 1992 would be the first time of many that they filed bankruptcy. They did not let their family know about their financial problems. They pretended to have this perfect life with perfect children and even would fly their families to their house where they would spend all kinds of money trying to impress them. The oldest child, Jennifer, was the only one that attended public school, and she was pulled out after the second grade because they decided to homeschool all their children. Her classmates would say Jennifer had poor personal hygiene. She wore the same white and purple floral puffy top to school each day, and her long, greasy brown hair, crudely cut into bangs, was never brushed. One time, when Louise's sister Elizabeth moved in with the Turpins for the summer, Elizabeth started becoming uncomfortable with her brother-in-law's increasingly inappropriate behavior. He began teasing her about an ex-boyfriend, saying that he must have gotten excited when she went swimming in her skimpy bikini. Soon after this revelation, Elizabeth was taking a shower when Louise picked the bathroom lock with the coat hanger. Then she and David came in to watch, and they made her get out and stand before them naked. From then on, David and Louise often watched Elizabeth in the shower, telling her she was beautiful. Although Elizabeth hated it, she felt she had no alternative. If she went back to her mother, she would be living in a homeless shelter, since that is where her mother currently resided. She insisted that David never laid a finger on her, though. Finally, they kicked Elizabeth out of the house after she started dating a boy. The Turpins ended up abandoning their house in Fort Worth and moved to Rio Vista, Texas, with their now 7 children after filing bankruptcy yet again. This house was rural and had very few neighbors, and this is when they began their abusive behavior towards the children. Not only would the physical abuse begin, but also SA would occur. It started with slapping, hitting, and throwing the children around the room, and eventually escalated to the use of a belt. The children were forced to call them mother and father, and were told that father was the head of the household and they must obey him. At first, mother and father whipped the children with the leather end of David's belt, using the metal buckle if they still didn't behave. Then they began using a wooden paddle or an oar. The offending child would have to drop his or her pants and lie down on the bed. Later, one of the boys would say the oar was the worst. It hurt the most of everything they used. They would then be beaten with the oar on their lower back, buttocks, and the backs of their upper legs. If this still didn't work, mother and father would use what Joshua called the switch, a metal tent stick with fiberglass wrapped around it and metal tips on the end. Both parents carried out the beatings. None of the children were allowed to shower more than once a year and could not wash their hands above the wrist area. The children were so badly fed that their growth became stunted, and they would suffer permanent physical and cognitive damage. The children had new clothes in their closets with the tags still on them, but were never allowed to wear them. They were made to wear the same set of clothes and hardly ever allowed to change. They also had a garage and rooms full of unopened toys that they were not allowed to play with. They were kept in the box, never opened, collected dust, and even one Christmas they all got a new bike, which just sat and rot because they weren't allowed to ride them. The few times the children were allowed in public, they would dress them in perfectly matching outfits, and the children would walk military style from the oldest to the youngest. Most of the time, the children would be left at home while the parents went out and dined and wined and dined at the best restaurants. Their home became so filthy from animal feces wiped on the wall, diapers and trash piled knee-deep. So they bought a double-wide mobile home, parked it behind their house, and moved into it. The Turpins ended up with 12 children in 17 years. They would have the 13th child 10 years later. After moving into the trailer, father built a makeshift cage to imprison any child who dared to break his rules. The large metal cage was 7 feet wide by 5 feet tall and divided in half to accommodate 2 offenders. A thick pegboard siding with holes in it. There was a 5-inch gap at the bottom where food could be pushed through. Mother and father started locking their children in the padlock cage for days at a time. At some point, after moving into the trailer, mother and father abandoned their children for 4 years. They found an apartment 40 miles south in Benbrook, Texas, taking only the 2 youngest children with them. The two oldest children were made to take care of the other children and were even made to lock them in the cages when they didn't behave. They controlled the children by phone. The oldest, Jennifer, did run away. She attempted to get a job, but without a driver's license or any ID, she never stood a chance. She didn't know anything about the real world outside of those trailer walls. She ended up calling her mother, and her mother came and picked her up. When Louise turned 40, she hit her midlife crisis and began to sow her wild oats. Her wild oats involved, basically, she grew a fascination with rattlesnakes, and the church that dances with snakes. She became intrigued by that. She, for some reason, started skinning and eating snakes. She got into witchcraft. She got into the cult and was playing with Ouija boards. Well, she just did a little of everything. They also began drinking alcohol in bars for the first time in their life and decided to try an open marriage. They became swingers, and David would rent a hotel room so his wife could have sex with other men. It was recorded so David could watch later. Then after filing bankruptcy again, they moved, leaving behind animals in the house, later found dead. This time they moved to Southern California, and they left that house. So after they moved to Southern California, they started chaining the children to their beds with a padlock for prolonged periods. David got a new job paying $143,000 a year. He made plenty, but yet the children had nothing. While they ate like a king and queen, the children were fed very little. The children were forced to sleep all day and stay up all night, and they couldn't exercise at all. On the Turpin's 30th anniversary, they went to Las Vegas to renew their vows and took the children with them. This is where the now famous photo was taken. Jordan would say that her father made his first advances to her one Thanksgiving. David summoned her into the television room upstairs. All her siblings were in their rooms, and Louise was out of the house. He beckoned her over to the recliner he was sitting on, and when she got close, he pulled her pants down, and so she pulled them back up. He ignored her and pulled them back down again and lifted her onto his lap. Before he could go any further, they heard Louise arrive home and come up the stairs. Thank God. Jordan jumped off his lap and pulled her pants up just before she walked into the room. Later, David ordered her never to tell anybody what had happened. Over the next several years, David would continue his inappropriate advances on his daughter. He often tried to kiss her. The only time all the siblings socialized with one another was when mother and father were both out of the house. Then they could sneak out of their rooms and hang out. They were usually fed only one meal, and it usually consists of a peanut butter sandwich, a bologna sandwich, or a burrito and chips. The children were allowed out of their room to eat only 2 at a time. While their children starved, mother and father feasted on pizza, Jersey Mike's, and hearty Mexican food. They brought in mouth-watering pumpkin and apple pies, leaving them on the counter as their starving children watched the pies turn moldy and eventually get thrown away. The refrigerator and all the cabinets had locks on them, so the children couldn't take food. In early 2016, Jennifer Turpin secretly lent Jordan her cell phone so she could go online and surf the internet. The 15-year-old was watching Justin Bieber music videos when Joshua caught her. He reported her to Mother, who flew into a rage. "Do you want to die?" Mother yelled, grabbing Jordan by the throat and starting to choke her. When Jordan said she didn't, Mother screamed, "Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You want to die and go to hell." When Louise finally released Jordan, her neck was sore for the next 2 days. On May 14, 2017, Louise celebrated Mother's Day by giving her daughters a bath. It was their first in a year. One by one, Mother washed their hair and scrubbed their filthy bodies. But after Jolinda got into the bathtub, she asked to use the bathroom. Her mom got extremely upset with her and pinched her and picked her up off the ground by her neck. After their bath, Mother gave them all clean, matching dresses to wear and took them out to pose for photographs, which she later posted on Facebook. It's all about looks, what other people thought about her. She didn't care what she did to her children, but she wanted everybody to think that she was the perfect mother with the perfect family and the perfect life. It was all a mirage, like we often see on Facebook. People pretend to be so perfect, and underneath, they're hiding so much. Immediately after returning to the house, Mother handed the girls their soiled clothing to put back on. That would be their last bath for 9 months. In December 2017, Joshua Turpin gave Jordan his old cell phone after getting a new one for Christmas. Although deactivated from making phone calls, it was still able to access the house Wi-Fi and get on the internet. Jordan, who had learned about social media from Jennifer, now started setting up various accounts. She set up her own YouTube channel where she began posting videos of herself performing songs she loved to sing. Secretly, she recorded it in a bedroom behind closed doors. Jordan also began chatting online with a young man in India. They became friends and she told him about all her miserable life and her parents. Shocked, he encouraged her to escape and alert authorities to what was going on. David was told that his aerospace engineering job was soon being transferred to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It meant yet another move for the Turpins, who spent the holidays packing up boxes of their things for the 1,300-mile move east. Jordan knew it was now or never. Early the next morning, she slipped out into a world she knew nothing about, scared and unsure what would happen next. This is when she made her famous 911 call. When the sheriff's deputies walked into the house, they were appalled at its filthy state and the overpowering stench of human waste. They found the children scattered in different rooms around the house. Jonathan Turpin was still chained up when they walked into his bedroom, and they freed him. Jalissa and Joanna, chained to their bunk beds since October, had already been freed by Jessica on Mother's orders just before they came. Jessica had hastily thrown the chains and padlock into the closet. They began to speak of the horrors they endured in that stinking and filthy house. Jonathan was treated worse than most of the other children. Jonathan said father had chained him up at first, and then mother had taken over. During his punishments, which would last up to 2 months, he would be chained up all day and only unchained to relieve himself, eat, and brush his teeth. Often he would be unable to get to the bathroom in time. His wrists and feet had been chained to a safety rail on either side of his top bunk so tightly that they were bruised, and he often sat in feces, as well as the other children that were sometimes chained. Julissa said mother had started chaining her to the bedpost for up to 4 months at a time when she turned 11. The chains would be wrapped around each of her wrists like bracelets, and then around the bedpost. Initially, she was able to stand up in the chains, but when mother found out, she shortened the chains. But even the well-trained medical professionals were shocked when they first saw the terrible state of their emaciated, stunted patients. All the siblings except for 2-year-old Jana had suffered severe malnourishment, nerve damage, and mental and cognitive impairment. Many of the adult siblings had muscle loss due to bad diet and lack of exercise. Nearly all of them were between 20 and 50 pounds underweight. Jonathan also suffered from these ailments as well as skeletal abnormalities caused by all the years of being restrained by ropes or chains. James exhibited disturbing antisocial behavior, telling the doctor that he wanted to kill animals and believed his dreams could predict the future. They were all between the ages of 2 and 29. A Riverside County public guardian had been appointed to care for the 7 adult Turpin siblings as they were unable to take care of themselves. They would eventually move into a supervised living facility. The 6 minors who had asked to remain together had already been discharged from the hospital and split up to live in 2 foster homes. On Good Friday, April 19, 2019, David and Louise Turpin were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. The foster family that 6 of the children were put in after their escape from their parents were abusing them too. The foster family would subject the children to physical abuse that included hair pulling, hitting them with the belt, and striking their heads. The siblings also allegedly endured severe emotional abuse. The foster family allegedly made the children sit in a circle and recount in detail the horrors that they had experienced while living with their parents, their biological parents. They allegedly told the children they were worthless and encouraged them to harm themselves. The family would force the siblings to eat excessive amounts of food until they threw up, and then they were made to eat it again. The children remained in this home for 3 years. 4 of the children have been sent to a new foster care and are said to be safe. The rest have aged out of foster care, including Jordan, who now has her own apartment. Jordan hopes to write about her life one day and become a motivational speaker, as she believes that she can help others. She also enjoys making TikTok videos. Here's one. She's so cute. She's such a pretty little girl. All right, guys. I hope y'all have a blessed week. I love y'all and take care of yourself. Be a blessing to others and have a great day. Love ya. Bye. Go lay down so I can record. I didn't mean in my lap. This will work out great. You can pretend like you're the one talking, I guess. That'll work. Move your mouth like that. Hello, my name is Ollie. You can't fit in this chair with me. I'm sorry. They decided to homeschool all their children. Here comes my baby again. She wore the same white and purple floral. There comes the other one. The Turpins ended up with 12 children instead of... There he goes. What are you in such a pissy fit about? You're being a little poot-poot. Being a little poot-poot as usual. I'm going to go work on my rabbit cage now. I'm going to go build that cage. I bought all this wire. I don't know if I can cut it. I'm going to try. I might have to have my husband help me because it's really thick wire. I'm going to go ride my little turkey on the four-wheeler because he's driving me nuts. So I will see y'all later.